I think that that is a very wonderful thought, because we know that a number of presidents have been evaluated more positively with time, and some have gone down a few notches. But if you look, for example, at Gerald R. Ford, our hometown hero here. Here's somebody who was criticized. No president experienced a more precipitous dive in Gallup poll's approval rating than the day after President Ford pardoned Richard Nixon. He lost something like between 20 and 30 points overnight. It's never happened before or since, to that extent, since presidential polling began in the middle 30s with Franklin Roosevelt. So we know that Ford took it on the chin. A lot of people thought it cost him re-election in 1976, and yet by 2000, 2001, you have the John F. Kennedy Award, Profile Encourage Award, go to President Ford, and Caroline Kennedy and Senator Edward Kennedy standing there praising a man. And Senator Edward Kennedy saying, "I was wrong about you, Jerry. I was so wrong about you, and I apologize." Now that's interesting. We know that Richard Reeves and Bob Woodward and a number of journalists who were very perceptive and writing very actively at the time changed their opinions. Now this happened over a period of less than 30 years, about 25 years. So if it can happen to Ford in 25 years or so, in a 24/7 news cycle, it can certainly happen to any president. We know what happened also with Truman and John Adams. A guy named David McCullough came along and all of a sudden resurrected the reputations of these guys. Truman went out with among the lowest approval ratings of any modern president, down in the low 20s, depending on the poll you're looking at in the week. And yet now he's considered a near great president. Plain speaking, made tough decisions, set the paradigm for the Cold War that would enable us to keep from surrendering or blowing ourselves up. He's considered a hero. Same with John Adams. Eisenhower, you know, Fred Greenstein's book on the hidden hand presidency comes out, and in the 70s and 80s, all of a sudden, a generation after Eisenhower leaves office, we're reevaluating him. So Lincoln has certainly experienced ebbs and flows, and will continue to. The latent leadership qualities that maybe were not recognized at the time do come out over the course of time. And I've often said, and it's not a political statement, I am not making a partisan statement pro or con with George W. Bush, but the historian hat in me just says, just wait. We don't know what future history holds. We don't know if the economy is going to get a lot worse because of future actions. We don't know if we're going to be attacked on our soil repeatedly. That's when you'll know how George W. Bush will be evaluated. What's going to happen over the next 20 years? That will influence George W. Bush's evaluation. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Yes, sir. Peter.
Thinking of Lincoln as the founder of a modern political party, certainly the Free Soil Party and the Republican Party as it started would be considered very liberal for its time. And within a relatively short period of time, the Republican Party becomes very conservative, and so there's a transition. Where does this transition take place, and how much of it happens before Lincoln is assassinated?
Well, of course, the Republican Party becomes split in two under Lincoln, and you have the radical Republicans, and then you have the more moderate Republicans. The split, of course, divides the whole country. I mean, the whole policy, Reconstruction policy, of course, is debated. So the Republican Party suffers for that. But the Democratic Party likewise turns around. I mean, the Democrats in the 19th century were the imperial party. They're the party always expanding. You know, the party, you know, go attack Mexico, and that was the Whigs. It was always, the Whigs always saying, hold back, we don't want an imperial party. The Whigs will be pro-business, anti-imperial. The Republicans, pro-business. What have they become? I mean, some people in recent years have said the Republican Party has become certainly quasi-imperial. These transformations are fascinating, and if you compare a Republican Party platform now with one from, say, 150 years ago, look at tariffs. Republicans used to be the party of high tariffs to please northern industrialists. Well, now, of course, Republicans want to be the party of low taxes, and you know, if you look at another Look at government improvements, internal improvements. Whigs and Republicans were always voting for internal improvements in the economy. The government would pick winners and losers and help railroads and canals and telegraphs and all kinds of corporations. Now, of course, the Democratic Party is considered the one taking the lead on big public works projects. This is the fascination of being a historian. I love it. I mean, you cannot keep still. You cannot just depend on the last book you read, and you cannot just depend on the nostrums you heard, you know, some entertaining speaker say once. I mean, you've got to keep working hard to understand how we got where we are. I'm sure that's what attracted many of you and keeps you in the teaching profession. It certainly attracts me as well. Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed your audience very much. Bye-bye.